Oh, shit. We good, chat? My bad. Oh, wow. That's terrible. That's terrible. What's up, chat? Oh, forgive me, chat. I almost want to restart the whole stream. Forgive me, chat. Forgive me. All right. We're here. We're here. And forgive me, chat. Bear with me. So, we are here. May 20th. The fight is official. Lomachenko versus Devin Haney. Fight will be at the MGM Grand Garden in Las Vegas. A lot of us are still buzzing from Benavides-Plant, and it's good. It's good. It's good to actually have some sound now. Forgive me, I'm a little embarrassed, but we can get started here, and we'll jump. Yeah, hell, you know what? Enough. Let's get to the good stuff. Let's jump to keys to victory. Now that the fight is here, keys to victory for Undisputed. And I want to forgive everyone. Forgive me again for not having that sound going. Good to see everyone. Keith Wick Life, Nunyer Biz, Special Val, Emilio Beltran, King Joker, The Brotherhood Sports. But yeah, I was going off, Weedy Gonzalez, and no one heard. It was all for naught. But keys to victory for Undisputed for this fight. And you know, we got a long ways between now and May 20th, so keep some bullets in the chamber here. But for Devin Haney, have the athletic feet like Teofimo Lopez did against Lomachenko. Don't let Lomachenko get that southpaw lead foot to the outside of his orthodox stance lead foot and pivot off along with Lomachenko. Meaning, Teofimo Lopez, he was athletic enough for that foot speed of Lomachenko. He loves to get to that angle. He loves to get to the outside of your lead foot against an orthodox fighter, being a southpaw. And what Teofimo was able to do was be athletic enough with his own feet and quick enough with his own feet to pivot off, and keep Lomachenko on the line and not let him get to that angle he likes, that blind spot. And Devin Haney has, probably even better feet than Teofimo Lopez, so he should be able to do that. And he has a better jab than Teofimo Lopez. And Lopez, along with pivoting off and keeping him lined up, kept the jab in his face, too, to keep him blind, keep him busy, keep him preoccupied. And Devin could keep it a step further and really land with it. So, and then step number 2 for Devin Haney, impose his size and impose his range. He's got a huge reach advantage, and he's going to rehydrate to probably, 150, maybe 150 plus pounds on fight night. So impose that. Impose the size and impose the range. Don't let this guy get inside that often unless, in the fourth tip here, unless you're counterpunching him coming in. Because Lomachenko, as good as he's been, as great as he's been, he's a guy who's side to side in. Lomachenko's never been a guy that will punch you off the back foot. He's not a guy that's going to take that step back and walk you into a shot, take a step back, check you with the hook. He goes and gets you. It's just he does it in a very sophisticated, unique style with great footwork and hand speed. But as sophisticated as it is, none of it comes off the back foot. It's side to side in. So you can touch him up coming in. You could counterpunch him coming in like, Teofimo Lopez was able to do. Actually, we could look at that right here when Lopez was able to counterpunch Lomachenko coming in like that. Devin Haney has a good counterpunch right uppercut himself. He could walk Lomachenko into an assortment of right hands. And right here you see actually Lomachenko shooting over the top of Teo's jab well, but he's eating the jab too, as you can see the sweat kind of knock off the mouth area. But Teo kept that jab in his face and pivoted off. We can't see their feet in this photo, but you could see he still got Lomachenko pretty much on the line. Loma's a little bit to the outside. That's why you see that right hand coming over the top of Teo's jab, but Teo's doing a good job of keeping him on the line and pivoting off with him and not letting him get to that blind spot with that southpaw lead foot getting to his outside of his foot. And so that's a key for Devin. And then be busy behind the jab and jump out to a commanding lead. He has a great jab, one of the best jabs, and that's the key to the step before it, imposing size and range. A lot of that starts behind that jab. And jump out to a commanding lead because, as we know, Lomachenko downloads data, and he starts off very slow in a lot of his fights. Even some of the fights he's wound up dominating in, he didn't get off to a great, to a fast start. So those would be my keys to victory for Haney. upon my first thoughts upon the fight getting signed, athletic feet, don't let Loma get his lead foot to the outside of your lead foot, pivot off along with him, impose your size and your range. A lot of that starts behind the jab and jump out to a commanding lead when this guy's a slow starter. And counterpunch Lomachenko coming in because he's coming in. He's got to close the gap. He's the shorter guy with shorter arms, and his style has always been a sophisticated pressure fighter, basically. He's not a guy who's going to walk you into shots off the back foot. That's not his game. Now, for Vasiliy Lomachenko, who's going to be a significant underdog in this fight because he's a guy who started his career at featherweight and he's maxed out at lightweight. Devin's just beginning at lightweight, and he's one day going to be, a legit, significant welterweight. Forgive me, I'm pretty thirsty right now. Had some Five Guys. Should have drank some more water before I got on, but he's whatever I was saying. But so what we got to do, he's going to be an underdog because Devin one day is going to be a full-fledged welterweight. Probably, maybe even move up to 154 pounds. He's a big guy, and he's going to outweigh Lomachenko significantly in the ring and have a lot of size and reach on him and youth. So, Haney's going to be a significant favorite, and if Lomachenko is going to pull it off, here's, I think some of his best path to victory, and that's, first of all, find a way to get inside the mid, to find a way to get to the inside mid-range. I don't even mean the phone booth. Lomachenko's sweet spot is the mid-ish inside range. It's more mid-range, but, leaning more towards the inside than it would be the outside. That's his sweet spot. And apply intelligent pressure, like he likes to do, meaning being very defensively responsible, not taking a lot of clean shots coming in. Even if Haney's getting off to that lead we all expect him to get off to, you're not really taking that much punishment, and you're being sharp defensively. And then secondly, this is really important, and this could be key, the most important of it all, land the left hand. So much easier said than done, but I put a la Jojo Diaz because Jojo Diaz had a lot of success. He won about 4 rounds against Devin Haney in December of 2021. And Haney as a champion is going to be a lot better now. But you see it right there, that straight left hand landing on Haney. And, of course, Haney, he decisively won that fight. And won it 116, 112 on just about everybody's card. But Diaz hit him a lot with the left hand, and he applied intelligent pressure. And he is a southpaw with some of the same physical dimensions of Lomachenko. It's just that by the time these two meet, by the time Haney fights Lomachenko, he'll have been such a more seasoned, better fighter, an undisputed champion, as opposed to getting the finishing touches as a contender with the WBC belt. Devin's gotten so much better in those 2 fights with Kambosos since that he's not going to be the same guy that Jojo Diaz was able to have success applying intelligent pressure and landing his left hand with. But even though Devin's got better, he's fighting a better opponent than Jojo Diaz and Vasiliy Lomachenko. So, a lot of those left hands that Diaz really cracked Devin with and had the most success with wasn't just the straight left hand. It was him looping it a little bit over the top, generating more power, coming over the top with it once he got to a sweet spot in range, because Devin is one of the best young fighters in the sport. He's the undisputed champ, but if there's one part of his game maybe that needs to continue to be worked on is his inside game. He's so dominant on the outside, and then when you try to close the gap and get to the inside, he could get you with really good counter shots, walk you into right hands, walk you into uppercuts, walk you into check hooks, that not a whole lot of guys have been able to get much done on the inside, because you got to walk through counter shots and you got to get through that jab, and there's counters behind that jab, so you got to take punishment to get in there. Diaz is the only guy who really was able to get in there, and he was able to loop that left hand, sometimes throw it straight, but he was able to really, crack and land some good shots on Devin, looping it a little bit, and getting to that sweet spot that Lomachenko's going to have to get to, the mid-side, the mid-inside, area type range in the fight. So he's got to land that left hand, kind of like Jojo did, apply intelligent pressure, and get into the same range that Jojo was able to, but he'll be fighting a better version of Devin Haney. And he's got to come on strong late, because we know he starts slow, and so he's got to come on strong late. And fight with spite, like he did for Nakatani. Don't be the guy who let Richard Comey survive for 12 rounds. When he fought Masahiro Nakatani, now I understand, fighting someone like Nakatani, who's a tall guy with very little defense, you could look spectacular against, as opposed to a guy like Teofimo Lopez or Devin Haney, young, athletic, great reflex type fighters. But still, I was at those fights, and Lomachenko, and the best Lomachenko I've ever seen was probably the one who fought Nakatani, because he wasn't doing a lot of his, some of his amateur tricks mixed in with the pro game, where touch, bang. And I understand that's special boxing, varying the speed on your punches and everything. But he was throwing left hands against Nakatani with bad intentions, like he wanted to take his head off, like he was spiteful and angry that he had lost his belts to Teofimo Lopez, and he wanted to make a statement that night. And he fought with a lot of spite and threw his punches with bad intentions, that left hand. And that's the kind of Lomachenko he's going to have to be, because just a couple months later against Richard Comey, he's got Comey hurt in the 7th, buzzed on the ropes, and he's looking at the ref. He's chewing out the ref, and he's playing games, and he's playing with his food, and he's not finishing the deal fighting with spite like he did against Nakatani, where he wanted to make a statement. And Comey goes all 12 rounds. And then the next fight against Jermaine Ortiz wins 5 rounds against him and busts his face up a little bit. So if Lomachenko can, he's got to find a way to fight with spite and be that guy he was against Nakatani. And shit, I should add this. You know what? While you guys are here with me, I'll add it to the notes. He needs to... Here, I'll put it right here in the notes, because I guess I'm thinking out loud here. Take chances. He has to take chances. He can't do what he did against Lopez. He's got to take some chances. That might get him lit up against this young, sharp, fast, athletic, bigger than him, counterpuncher, with a great jab. But if he wants to pull off the upset and cement his greatness, he's going to have to take chances. He's going to have to sometimes take one to land one. And I don't know if we've ever truly been willing to see Lomachenko do that, because he's always been the talented guy in there. He's never been the guy who's had to sell out against the guy with more athleticism than him. We'll see if he brings that kind of mentality. If he does, it could be a great fight. I just favor Devin Haney because, he's a young ascending force who's a bigger guy, who's going to be a full-fledged welterweight. I think Lomachenko's peaked. His best days are behind him. He's still a formidable force. It's still a good fight. I still think Haney deserves a lot of credit should he win the fight. But it's not a hard fight to pick by my eyes. I would be surprised if Lomachenko pulls this off. I know, maybe him and his dad will be looking at the Jojo Diaz fight and look at how many times Diaz was able to get into mid to close range and nail Devin with the left hand repeatedly, and maybe they could have success with that. But, otherwise, I think that, Devin wins the fight, and it's a hell of a fight. So let's take a look at some of you in the chat, and let's see here. Let me see. And yeah, we'll take a look at some odds too, early odds. I'm going to take a guess Devin's around the high 2s to the low 3s. High 200, minus 200 something, low 3. Let's see. They got these weird odds here on this site. Let me take a look at some other ones. Let me say what's up to the chat. Dr. Ruben, what's going on? What are my thoughts on this being a pay-per-view? Oh, thank you, Charles N. Saying the hair looks great. Appreciate that. Let's see. Thoughts on it being a pay-per-view? Well, that's just the state of the game in today's boxing now. It seems as though just about any good, decent fight is going to be pay-per-view. Although, we still get fights like Charlo and Castaño rematch last year, which was on regular Showtime, and Valdez and Stevenson last year was on regular ESPN. But the way things are trending in the sport right now is if you're going to get good fights, they're going to be on pay-per-view, because I don't know why. Maybe these networks aren't allocating the budgets they were before, but they're more than willing to still put on pay-per-views on their networks and reap whatever revenue does come out of it. I don't know how good that is for the health of boxing, and how much you're limiting the potential audience by putting it behind a paywall. But then you could argue that's just always going to be boxing's best model for its biggest fights. Its best fights is you got to put them on pay-per-view. You can't live in 2001 forever, where HBO World Championship Boxing would have something like Vernon Forrest and Shane Mosley on its regular network. That'd probably be on pay-per-view now. But it is what it is. It's the state of the game. And I'll say this when it comes to pay-per-view. I would rather pay for a pay-per-view fight than get a shitty fight, a fight that I wasn't really asking for free. So I'll pay for a good product. That's my thing. That's how I feel about it. But boxing analyst saying, Sean, would you rock the bald cut? I would not. I don't think that'd be a good look. I actually have a big head, and I'm good on that. But Weedy Gonzalez said boxing after dark. He feels like this isn't even Weedy, you don't even feel like this is HBO's World Championship Boxing? And by the way, guys, tomorrow I go to San Diego. I got to leave like 6 in the morning tomorrow because I have to go see Canelo Alvarez have his media day for John Ryder. So, be on the lookout. I'll probably be live for that workout, and you guys could throw some questions in the chat because me and everybody else is going to be asking him his reaction to the Benavides fight. Eddie Hearn spilled the beans that Bivol is not done yet. I was under the impression that Canelo was mapped out for 2023 and that basically the Bivol fight and the Ryder fight were already set in stone. And now we're come to find out from Eddie Hearn that the fight is not finalized with Bivol. So technically, Benavides is an option in September for Canelo, and me and everyone else tomorrow in San Diego will be asking him that. So if you guys in the chat got any more creative questions for Canelo, let him rip. We could maybe use it because he'll get tired of answering the same questions all day tomorrow. But Chip Skylark said, this really is a 50-50 fight. I want to see Dev go all out and dominate. I don't think it's 50-50. I just think you got to favor the younger, bigger, fresher, ascending force in Devin Haney. I don't think it's really a tough fight to pick. I think it's a fight where you respect Lomachenko's chances. You understand what he's always been capable of. But on paper, it favors Devin Haney. That's just my opinion. I do see a path to victory for Loma. Basically, the path to victory for Loma is doing a lot of the things Diaz was able to implement and doing it at a higher level. But I'm not sure how much more you could take advantage of what Diaz is able to do because Haney probably learned from that experience, and so we'll see. It should be a good fight, but I definitely favor Haney. I lean more towards the chances that Haney is dominant in the fight than Lomachenko winning it. I think the most likely scenario is a competitive unanimous decision for Haney. I think is the most realistic scenario out of all of them. But I would lean more towards Devin dominating or shutting out Lomachenko than Lomachenko pulling off the upset. That's just how much I favor Haney in this fight. But Lomachenko has been a great fighter in the sport. Is probably headed towards Canastota when he hangs him up because of the amateur 2 gold medals and the fact that he's won world titles in fewer amount of fights than any other professional in the sport. But I think it's a new day in the lightweight division and has been for about a year now, and it'll continue to be Haney. So I think Lomachenko is standing in the way of the real showdown. At least on the top ranked side of things, it's Haney and Stevenson. That's the real fight to be made at lightweight. Of course, Haney or Stevenson, or if Lomachenko could pull off an upset against Tank and Ryan's winner would be great. But politics enter into the fray there. So, but let me see. Lou said Loma stayed in the amateurs too long. Well, that's the case for a lot of Ukrainians, Eastern Europeans, Cubans. We don't get them until they're a little older, but it is what it is. The Brotherhood Sports, good to see you, man. Sean, where would you rank Haney on Lomachenko's list of opponents? Is he the best? Good question, Brotherhood Sports. I would because the other guys that are comparable were smaller. Gary Russell, guys like that. I mean, Guillermo Rigadiao was very small, coming up from 122 and old. But, some people were on Lomachenko's case about that fight, hardcore Rigadiao fans, so he took it and, beat the smaller, older man. But he's the smaller, older man against Devin Haney, and because of that, this would be the biggest win of Lomachenko's career. Yeah, hands down. Brotherhood Sports. This would be the biggest win of Lomachenko's career, bigger than Jorge Linares, who was stopped a couple times previous to that fight, never unified, or let alone became undisputed. Gary Russell, good fighter, WBC featherweight champion for a long, inactive reign, but a long reign at that. And but never unified, never was undisputed, isn't at the size that Devin Haney's at. So when you combine the fact that Loma's going in as the older guy, the smaller guy, this is the first time he's going up against an undisputed champion. Yeah, this is the biggest test of Lomachenko's career. So, yeah, I know Lopez is a better puncher than Haney. He's an athletic, freak himself, a force of nature himself, but doesn't have the length and the jab of Haney and isn't as hard to hit as Haney at times, and although he has some great reflexes too, if he's got a style coming right to him, that's what he fights best against, and that's why I knew he would beat Lomachenko. And he does have some of the power that Devin Haney doesn't have, so it'll be interesting to see if Lomachenko's willing to take more chances against Haney than he was against Lopez, who was so strong at that time at lightweight. But we'll see. Let's see. Salido was the nutcracker in that fight. Yeah, and Lomachenko kind of figured it out down the stretch in that fight. Came on strong and got a crash course in professional boxing. Got about 20 fights worth of professional experience crammed into one where he fell short. I do always think he would have won that rematch with Salido, but Salido said, nope, that L is not for sale. I beat you, and I'm going to take that one, and ride that one off into the sunset. So, I understand that from Salido. But, so who we got, chat? Give me a 1 for Haney. Give me a 2 for Lomachenko. Who we got, chat? I want to see some early numbers here. Where do I see Kambosos going next? Asked Minnesota Mick. I think Kambosos still definitely has a future. He still, when he trains, he still looks sharp and fast, and he hasn't ballooned up in weight, and he's still a hungry guy. He's a tough guy. He fought a really big, long, skilled, ascending lightweight in Haney, but he could still be a tough fight. He's not going to beat a Shakur Stevenson. He's not going to beat a Tank Davis. But guys like Isaac Cruz and, even him and Frank Martin, I might give the edge to Frank Martin, but that's a good fight. Guys, him against anybody but, the big three, Stevenson, Haney, and Tank, is a good fight. Even against Ryan Garcia, that would be a good fight. Garcia not as proven as those other three guys I said. Maybe he pulls off his own upset against Tank on the 22nd, but Kambosos still got plenty of juice in the tank in his prime. A guy with some speed and a lot of toughness. I think Kambosos is still a factor in the lightweight division. Just don't see him beating those three guys. Let's see, 1-1-1. Well, Daniel Villafuerte hit us with the 3 to start. But 1, 2, 1-1-1-1, 2, 1-1-1-1-1, 2. So basically like 2-2. So 2 people have Lomachenko and like 15 people have Devin Haney. So, 2 years ago, Lomachenko probably would have been the favorite when Haney was still green and fighting guys like Jorge Linares and Jojo Diaz, but now it's a different story. And so, to Devin's credit, I guess, he's probably going to wind up being right. He said that you guys should fight me now when I'm still green and I'm still growing, because by the time you get to me, it's going to be too late. It's just going to be worse for you. And I think he turned out to be right in this scenario. Lomachenko, when Haney was green, might have been able to take advantage of that inexperience and beat him. But now, Devin more seasoned and really rehydrating to a big size at 150 on fight night. And, you got to favor Haney. So, Loma needs to implement a similar game plan that he did with Nakatani, says Abel, to beat Haney. That's what I said earlier in my notes, Abel, was that he has to fight with the spite that... that he did against Nakatani. Boxing analyst, good to see you, man, said, Sean, what if Kenny Bayless refs the fight? I guess that would favor Haney, but it's Benavides, the way he was fighting out of those clinches Saturday night, a lot of us feel like he would have got the stoppage if Bayless would have controlled some of that excessive holding from Plant down the stretch, but he didn't make it that consequential because he kept fighting out of the clinch so good. Lomachenko, like Benavides, although Benavides just straight up said, get off me with the elbows and start punching on you. Lomachenko's good at, bending his body down and making it look exaggerated to the referee that, hey, he's holding me. So if Devin, and I think people make too much about Devin Haney's clinching, but if Devin begins to clinch a lot down the stretch, I think that, Lomachenko can make it obvious to Bayless, and at that point, we'll see how Bayless would react. Based on how he treated the Benavides-Plant fight, he would let Devin hold as much as he wants, but and it is something to see in this fight how much Devin clinches, because I still haven't And I think Devin right now is top 10 pound for pound. He has a good shot. He's one of the true, young fighters that has a legit shot at getting to number 1 pound for pound at some point in his career. But I haven't really seen him fight on the inside comfortably a whole lot yet. Shakur Stevenson to a degree as well. He's gotten better at it. He scored some body shot knockouts early in his career. But both guys tremendously skilled and still not quite settled in on the inside yet. And if Devin begins to clinch a lot when Lomachenko gets there, we'll see how Kenny Bayless handles that. So we'll see. But Mr. Quake, am I happy that Francis Ngannou is boxing? It doesn't register with me that much. I'm not an MMA guy, so I don't really care. Matt's Adventures, thank you, brother, for the $5. Appreciate it, brother, for the super chat. The bad part is Devin is about as exciting as an ingrown toenail. Great talent, but needs to take the heel roll WWE style. Appreciate the super chat, Matt's Adventures. And I guess that would be doing the Mayweather game plan, right? When the knockouts aren't coming, you start to use the mouth to draw people in more. But I thought the Kambosos rematch was fun to watch. I thought that was entertaining. I thought Devin let go of more power shots, walked Kambosos into more right hands instead of just jabbing him to death like he did in the first fight. So I think against certain style, like Keyshawn Davis, who's developing into an excellent front foot skilled pressure fighter with speed, I think, him and Keyshawn would be a fun style matchup. Given the style he'd have coming to him, that would be an exciting fight for Devin down the road. I think him and Teofimo could be a fun fight stylistically, and I think that I actually think Devin, if and when he ever fights Shakur, Matt, if you go back to their sparring footage, I think that Devin would be the aggressor and would be looking to throw more combinations against Shakur Stevenson rather than be the boxer, because he knows how sharp Shakur is on the outside. And boxing with this guy who's naturally shorter than him, shorter reach, started at featherweight, whereas Haney started at lightweight. I think against Stevenson, you'd actually see the front foot come out with Devin Haney. And if you go back to the Jorge Linares fight, those first 9 rounds, it was pretty fun to watch how much combinations and hand speed he was putting together. He wasn't just jabbing Linares to death like he did against Gamboa or in the first Kambosos fight. He was running his shots and putting them together. And then the Diaz fight was a fun fight over 12 rounds, where Diaz won 4 out of 12 rounds and made it fun and competitive. So, but I hear you. Not everyone's David Benavides or Manny Pacquiao or a come forward, exciting fighter every time out. That's not his style. But I do think he will be in some exciting fights during his career. So we'll see. Kobe said, I know people are upset with Kenny Bayless. Thank you, Kobe, for the super chat. I know people are upset with Kenny Bayless, but when you look back at those clinches hurt Plant. The first punches I saw hurt him came from clinching. Indeed, they did, and you are correct. And that's why I was talking about it a minute before your super chat, Kobe, that, yeah, Bayless let Plant clinch a lot, but David made it a little inconsequential, even though you could argue he'd have got the stoppage if Bayless would have began to warn for excessive holding. But yeah, a lot of his best punches came out of the clinch. It was once Plant started jumping in and having to clinch more that Benavides started to get his offense off more. It wasn't even at mid-range, or certainly wasn't on the outside for Benavides. It was in the clinch, starting to free his arms up, not taking no for an answer in the clinch, not taking that silent agreement, as Teddy Atlas says, and he started to get off on him. And I love Breadman Edwards, who did a fantastic job with Plant. But Breadman said, if you're only looking at the clinching, you're being a little biased towards Benavides, and you wanted Plant to get stopped because you're ignoring the elbows and some of the punches to the back of the head from Benavides. But I would argue with Breadman, all due respect, that a lot of those elbows came because of the excessive clinching from Plant that wasn't being warned. And at times, Plant was dipping his head down in a certain way in those clinches that it helped conspire for Benavides to land shots to the back of the head. So, but thank you, man. Let me see. I got 2 more super chats I got to get to. Pound for Pound Sports Entertainment. Thank you, brother. Says, salute. Keep up the good work. Shout out to you, Pound for Pound Sports Entertainment. I appreciate it. You know what? I got to text my wifey to get me a fresh bottle of water because, man, I'm thirsty. I should have drank that damn Five Guys. The salt on the fries, they'll get you. But I appreciate that pound for pound sports entertainment, and I'm sorry again, guys, for being without audio to start. I got to tighten up. OG Chef Corey, thank you, my brother, for the $5. Thank you for the super chat. Why do you think Fury is being so difficult with negotiations? And who do you think he will fight next? Good question on who you think he'll fight next. Your guess is as good as mine. I've heard little rumblings about Andy Ruiz possibly. So I've heard some rumblings about that. I've heard actually the most I heard about was Joe Joyce. And if Fury turns around and fights Joe Joyce, you got to ease up on some of the flack because Joe Joyce is arguably a tougher fight. Arguably a tougher fight than Alexander Usyk. Joe Joyce is like the boogeyman at heavyweight right now. He don't got a belt, but he's the number one contender. You could definitely argue over Wilder and Joshua, who've been in that big top 3 to 5 guys for the longest time. But you could argue right now Joyce deserves his shot more than Wilder or Joshua right now. But why do I think so? What I think happened was I don't think that Usyk deserved 50%. I think that Usyk will fight for less than 50%, but his managers, Alex, you gotta forgive me, last name starts with a K, I can't pronounce it well, and Igis Klimas, they wanted 50% of the pot because their guy has 3 belts. Despite their guy having 3 belts and beating Joshua, I think Fury is the heavyweight champion that the public really recognizes, and in my eyes, and I think he's the bigger draw. He's conquered America where Usyk has not. He's more globally known in my eyes. I believe in reality, not just in my eyes. I think Fury is the more proven commodity at heavyweight, and I think he's the more global star who's been in bigger fights with Klitschko and with Wilder. Although I know Usyk became undisputed in the tournament and he beat Joshua in 2 fights, but still. So I think Fury had a big bag on the table in Saudi Arabia where they're throwing boatloads of money right now. And he asked for more than 50% of that pot in Saudi. And so once that fell, the Saudis pulled their money away and the pot shrank to back in Europe, back in England, I think the fight was dead. Once the Saudi money was pulled, I think the fight was dead because these businessmen, they can't fathom or go to sleep at night making a $30 million profit when they knew $60 or $70 million was really on the table. It feels like they're losing $40 million instead of making $30 million. So I think once the Saudis pulled the money, that was really a wrap, and everything after that, the 70-30 and the this and that back and forth was like PR. And so I hold Fury accountable, and I hold Usyk's management accountable. Not so much Usyk, because I believe that he wanted to get this thing done no matter what, but I do think Fury felt he was entitled to more than 50% of the pot originally. I actually agree with him. I don't agree with Usyk's representation digging their feet in on 50% when I don't think they quite deserve that. I think they deserve more 40%, if not 45%. So that's why I think it happened. I'm not on this team that Fury is such a bull. I understand Fury has spun tall tales before, and he disgracefully ducked out of the Vladimir Klitschko rematch, but he also showed me, alongside Deontay Wilder, the biggest pair of balls I've seen in the heavyweight division when in their 3rd fight since, guys like Lennox and Vitali were still fighting. So that's my take on it. I hold Fury accountable. I hold Usyk's team accountable, not so much Usyk. And hopefully he fights Joe Joyce next. But I don't just out and out blame Fury. I don't think Usyk's team should have dug their heels in on 50%. That's just me. Keith Wicklife said... hit me with the super chat too. Thank you, my man, saying 2023 could be great if Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. get it on. Thank you, Keith. It would be great, but the year's turning out pretty good right now anyways. Haney Lomachenko, Fulton Inoue, Tank Ryan, Benavides-Plant exceeded expectations, and it had expectations going in, and I think it exceeded them. And, Fury and Usyk dropped the ball. Crawford and Spence hasn't been able to happen, but even if Crawford-Spence doesn't happen, I'd like to see Crawford fight Virgil Ortiz then, for his WBO title, and Virgil might be on his way to picking up the WBA against Stanionis. Virgil's a good fight. I'm with you. I still hope Crawford and Spence could happen. There's still some rumors around the business that maybe it will happen. Nothing's official for Errol Spence yet. I've heard from people in the business that it's going to be Thurman. Rest assured it will be Thurman, even though we're waiting forever and ever for a verdict on it. All this time that's going on without Thurman and Crawford, or Thurman and Spence coming to an agreement, leads you to think maybe there is something going on with Spence and Crawford after all, since Thurman and Spence haven't come to an agreement. So, but we'll see. Donald Duck says, appreciate all your uploads. Thank you, man. Do you think Crawford should call out Davis? Tank Davis, 2 different weight classes. Hurley, but thank you, man. Boxing and Barbecue, good to see you, brother. Had fun seeing you at the fights, man. Great takes as always. I'm hoping for Joe Joyce and Fury soon. That's a great fight. Look, I'm disappointed that Fury and Usyk didn't happen. But I seen people so quick to make up their mind that it's all on Fury and they're ready to absolve Usyk, when I don't think Usyk deserved 50%. And I think Fury, from what he's given us boxing fans in that third Wilder fight, he should earn a little bit of respect and credibility with us than to just write him off as some, bitch-ass, flaky drug addict, even though some people would say, well, you just described him. No, Fury's a dog. We've seen his character in that ring before, getting up off the canvas against a monster like Wilder and winning the fight. So, I'm not just going to say he just ducked, even though my man Tim Bradley, who calls a spade, maybe got some heat from ESPN because Fury's an ESPN guy, unlike Usyk, and he said it's on Fury. And if Tim Bradley says it's on Fury, then damn it may very well be on Fury, because Tim calls it down, like he sees it. But to my eyes, Fury did deserve more than 50%. So, I don't put it all on him. But we'll see, especially if he fights Joe Joyce. You could argue that's an even more dangerous fight than Usyk is. He's a greedy belly, says Weedy Gonzalez. Yeah, that seems to be the consensus. Boxing fans seem to have their mind made up that it's fuck Fury and that it's his fault we're not getting undisputed. So he definitely lost the PR wars. So we'll see. Eric said he took a 12-second break. Yeah, that count in fight number 3, that second knockdown, round 4, was long. Let me see here. Jeremiah, do you agree with Eddie Hearn that Bivol is a harder fight for Canelo than David? It's interesting to say. I have heard... Good to see you, Jeremiah, by the way. I've heard that Benavides, from multiple people, got the better of Bivol in sparring. But, that sparring and a fight's 2 different things. Well, we know how tough of a fight Bivol is for Canelo. We beat him. We don't know if Benavides will beat him. So it's pretty easy for Hearn to make that statement because we know that Bivol was so difficult for Canelo. I'll say this. Look, Benavides certainly doesn't have the feet of Bivol, and I thought he has a great jab, and I'm still a believer in his jab, and I think his jab would be a big problem for Canelo, who's going to be in front of him, unlike Plant, who is moving with great feet. But Bivol has a better jab than David, and better feet than David. And unlike Caleb Plant, who had a better jab and better feet than David, he has the power in his right hand to make David respect him and to hurt him. And he has the physical strength at light heavyweight to withstand the kind of power David has. So, but here's the thing. Bivol, once Canelo faded in the second half of their fight, Bivol touched him up, never fully sat down and committed on his punches, weary of the counter from Canelo and Canelo's traps. So he would let his hands go in bunches and touch, run his hands, take what's there, and win the rounds. Benavides, if Canelo were to tire like that, Benavides would put a hurting on Canelo. I'm not saying he'd stop him, but he'd hit him with some hard, heavy shots, unlike Bivol, who was just, touching him up, not really sitting down on his punches, save for like a left hook in the 11th or 12th round that Canelo didn't see coming, that he walked him into a little bit, that he checked him with. But, Benavides, on the other hand, would hit Canelo with some hard shots that I think would hurt Canelo in a way Canelo has seldom been hurt in his whole career. So if Canelo fades, and Canelo does fade in some of these fights, especially when there's real resistance, when it's Caleb Plant, Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, and he's dominating from pillar to post from round 1, then, he's able to control the pace and pace himself very well. But when it's a tough competitive fight, like a Golovkin, even a Jacobs, Kovalev was taking rounds off of him, Bivol, Floyd Mayweather, obviously, Austin Trout, he could fade in the second half of fight and have to take a round or 2 or 3 off, so that he has something for the 12th or the 11th. He'll do that. And if Benavides senses that, he'll take advantage of it and put a hurting on Canelo in a way Bivol didn't down the stretch. Bivol just banked rounds. So it's hard to say for sure if Bivol's a tougher fight. I do think Canelo will get off more offense against Benavides than he does against Bivol. I think Benavides is a little easier to hit than Bivol. He stays in range more than Bivol. But I think in the second half of that fight, that's a more punishing fight for Canelo than he's ever experienced in his career. So it's tough to say. Raphael, 32, good to see you, brother. Weedy Gonzalez says Benavides has got a good gas tank. He didn't look tired at all after 12. No, he didn't. And actually, let me clear something up right now. When I said on my stream Sunday after the fight that Canelo Benavides is a 50-50 fight and you got to give the edge to Canelo, you got to peg him as the favorite, what I meant is more at the betting odds with the public. You know, on paper, at the betting odds, Canelo still deserves to be the favorite. But in my eyes, if the fight were to be signed, it's 50-50, and I give the edge to Benavides because of his youth and his volume and his size. Now, you know, the Benavides I saw Plant, I think I'd see a better Benavides than I saw against Plant, because against Plant, functioning off of a lot of anger, styles make fights. It's a guy who can move, who can make it hard to get in range at times, who has a jab that he stabs to the body a lot. Different styles. Canelo, even though he's definitely hands down better than Plant, better defense than Plant, even though he's not using his feet moving around the ring the way Plant does, that great upper body movement, but still, Canelo will be in front of him, and I think he'll be able to get the jab off more. But I think against Canelo or Beterbiev or Bivol, the chemistry between the two fighters heading into the fight is going to be one of respect. It's not going to be this personal animosity like it was with Plant and Benavides. And even in a way, even though Benavides coming into the Plant fight was talking about all this, I'm going to send you to the hospital, and he did, and I'm going to break your jaw, and I'm going to knock you the fuck out, and all this stuff, he might actually be more dangerous and scary not coming into a fight with that mentality, coming into a fight very respectful of a Canelo or a Bivol, because now he's fighting with his brain and he's fighting more calm, and things like the jab, which he hardly used at all in the first half of the fight with Plant. He was reaching for power shots in the center of the ring and not fighting behind his jab, and I think that made the fight a lot harder on him than it needed to. I think against guys like Canelo and Beterbiev and Bivol, part of why that jab might be there is because he's not functioning off as much emotion and anger and animus, and he'll be approaching it more like a boxing match, like a prize fight, rather than a street fight. So, you know, that's something to look out for David in those fights as well. So, yeah, Canelo has awesome head work now, says Keith Wicklife, indeed. Ness Mendoza says, as always, on point with the points. Thank you, my man. Jeremiah, so yeah, in conclusion, Jeremiah, I'm undecided on if Bivol's a tougher fight for David. You know, I'm undecided. I think that I think Canelo and David is a fight where Canelo hurts David early in the first 5 to 6 rounds, and David hurts Canelo late in the second half of the fight. So I think that's an amazing fight that we got to see. You know, I give the edge to Benavides. So because of youth, size, and volume. Over Canelo, who's 32 years old now, smaller guy, but still can get underneath and maybe even stop Benavides to the body or something. But I'd love to see it. I'm not sure who's the tougher fight, Jeremiah. Is there a rematch clause for Haney and Lomachenko? Good to see you, RNS1. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if there's a rematch clause for Haney and Lomachenko because this is the last fight for Haney with Top Rank. And I don't know what kind of options Top Rank has attached to this. That's a good question for the press conference, which will apparently be in Los Angeles pretty soon to announce the fight. So my man Frankie from Vilify Media will probably be down there for FightHype, and maybe he'll ask Devin, maybe someone else will ask Devin down there if there's a rematch clause. Who asked me? Let me see. Someone asked my man Brotherhood Sports, what style do I think will beat Benavides? Well, Benavides showed us some flaws. As much as he did live up to the Mexican monster name, he definitely showed us flaws. Flaws people have been pointing out for years. Flaws that I didn't think would come to light as much because I like his jab, and the jab didn't show up against Plant until late in the fight. But I think, Benavides is a guy that could be beat by the Beterbiev style, the Canelo style, or the Bivol style. He could be beat in a couple different ways, but he could beat these guys in a couple different ways. I think, Benavides, that's what makes him exciting right now, is that he's an offense-first fighter with speed and power, who wants to please the fans, who has skills, and he can, on any given night against these top guys from 68 to 75, he could either come out on top with a brutal, exciting victory, or he could be beat in an exciting fight. So, I could see him going to war with Beterbiev, and Beterbiev coming out on top because he's been at 75 his whole career and punches like a fucking horse, like a horse's kick. Or I could see Bivol outboxing him, doing some of the things Plant did, but being so much physically stronger than Plant that he takes it to another level. I could see Canelo getting underneath David on the inside and killing him to the body with beautiful punch placement and combinations and withering uppercuts up the middle, knocking David's head around and then finishing with hooks to the body. Or I could see David jabbing Canelo's head off and outworking him and hurting him down the stretch in a way he's never been hurt before. That's why Benavides, to me, is one of the most exciting fighters in boxing right now. So we'll have to see. David Morrell is too green. He is probably too green for Benavides right now. I don't love that fight right now, Benavides and Morrell, 23 and 26. Morrell hasn't even had 10 fights yet. I think 2.5 years from now or so, Benavides Morrell could be big pay-per-view business in the Latin market. I think Morrell, because he's not a little guy like Rigondeaux and Casamayor, he's not a mover like Casamayor and Lara, and he's not old like Luis Ortiz. I think Morrell's going to be the first guy that really, make some big noise, not huge noise, but some legit noise at the box office in America, because he's a bigger guy, he can punch, he's got a fun style, he's a decent looking kid, he's learning the language. So I feel like him and Benavides is a great fight right now, and we might have to take it right now, but it's undercooked. I mean, I'll take it serving and I'll eat it, and it's a good fight, but it's honestly undercooked. That fight should be built up more, Morrell and Benavides, But that said, you got to favor Benavides right now. He's entering his prime, and Morrell is still a prospect. But Morrell's got the only guy in the division as big as David, and he's got some tricky feet, and he's got power too. And Morrell's a dangerous fight for Benavides. I still got to favor Benavides right now, but that's a tough fight for him. And that fight might be next if they don't give him Andrade next, and if Canelo indeed is going to fight Bivol in September and not David, then that might be next. And that's a hell of a fight. It's just undercooked. That meat is real red. It could get, a little more marination. But, so let's see. Needs more fight. Agreed on Morrell. Sean, thank you, Ness Mendoza. Shit, and while we're on this, let me see if I can call wifey and just get a water. Your boy is dying over here with this water. Live call in.
Hey, babe.
Hey, babe, can I have a water, please? Dying out up here.
We're at your mom's house.
Oh, you went to my mom's. Okay, never mind. Never mind, chat. We're screwed. We're going to have to rock hard. Love you.
Love you.
Bye. Gotta soldier on, baby. Okay. Good stuff here by Real Faraj. Age will be the excuse for Lomachenko when he loses to Haney, but if he should upset Haney, you'll swear Lomachenko is the greatest. Lomachenko, appreciate your comment, Real Faraj. Look, not one of these Lomachenko lovers. I like him. I've enjoyed covering his fights, but he's never. I will roll my eyes a little bit when Bob Arum in the post fights would say he's the best fighter since Sugar Ray Leonard. I remember when they would debate whether Mickey Mantle or Joe DiMaggio was the best baseball player. Now you got to debate whether Terrence Bud Crawford or Vasiliy Lomachenko's the best fighter. And, and he's the greatest I've seen since Muhammad Ali, And I get it. The peak of Lomachenko's hype was, a little cringe, but I was never one of those guys. And I don't say, I don't bring up Lomachenko's size and age for any other reason than to call a spade a spade. I mean, we can't be too sensitive about our favorite young fighters here. Back in the day when Oscar De La Hoya knocked off Pernell Whitaker and Julio Cesar Chavez, they were both 33 years old, and they both had the WBC title. As a matter of fact, Whitaker, the fight was called pound for pound with De La Hoya and Whitaker because Whitaker was rated in the top 3 pound for pound still, But you talk to anybody, and nobody says that De La Hoya beat Whitaker in his prime. Nobody says that De La Hoya beat Chavez in their prime, even though today, the way you'd argue it, it'd be like, what are you talking about? They're 33 years old, still on the pound-for-pound list, still rated #1 by Ring and ESPN with the belt on their division. But people called a spade more often back then. You know, when Jerry Cooney knocked out an old Ken Norton, they said he was old. And no one's even saying Lomachenko's old. Lomachenko's still a formidable elite lightweight. If Devin beats Lomachenko, it solidifies his reign at lightweight. He didn't just win the 4 belts. He wound up defending them. And I think he will beat decisively a future Hall of Famer. And we haven't seen the best Devin Haney. And I think a peak Devin Haney at Lomachenko, which will show up against Lomachenko, would beat whatever Loma ever had at lightweight. So it's not to take away from Haney, but we have to call, spades. For example, in the Ryan Tank fight, I think Tank would knock out Ryan at whatever weight they fight at because of how much more experienced and complete he is overall as a fighter. But if Ryan shows up on fight night and he looks drained and weakened by the weight, then you call a spade and you say he looks weakened by the weight. You just call it like you see it. You don't let anything else get into the way of that. But by the way, on that whole Ryan rehydration thing, if Ryan is weighing in with the 10-pound clause in the morning, it's not even that consequential because he's just going to eat more after that and get up to 150 whatever afterwards. Now, if it's a rehydration, the night of the fight, an hour or two before the fight begins, then that's having the B side by the balls. But and Ryan didn't have to. And now I'm digressing into this whole Tank Ryan thing. Ryan's a grown man and didn't have to agree those stipulations. No one. So there are no excuses for Ryan. But my point is, you don't let things like, am I taking credit away from this fighter? Am I doing? You just call it like you see it, and that's what people used to do in boxing so much easier back in the day before social media. When De La Hoya beat Whitaker and Chavez, no one said he beat a prime Whitaker and Chavez, even though. You could have argued if you were a De La Hoya fanboy, what you mean? They're 33 years old. They're not 40. They got the belt. They're still rated on the pound for pound. So, like when Floyd beat De La Hoya, he's still beating a guy with a lot of juice in the tank that could beat a lot of top fighters, but he's not beating him at his peak. And that's just calling a spade. So I think if Haney does what I think he's going to do to Lomachenko, it solidifies his reign at lightweight. It's a great win. It's a win over a future Hall of Famer, especially if he wins in the fashion I think he will, which is, conclusive, bordering on dominant, not edging him out like Salido and Lopez. Devin will make a statement. But I'm happy that you brought that comment in here. Hopkins debunked the age argument. No, he didn't. That's called an exception to the rule, my friend. That exception to the rule, because Bernard Hopkins is exceptional. He's the only guy. It's him, and then even George Foreman at 45 winning with the right hand. He was losing every round against Michael Moore. He lost to Tommy Morrison before that. He had that one-punch power to make up all that ground against Michael Moore. But Bernard Hopkins, who I got on my wall behind me, is an exception to the rule, is an exceptional fighter. So for the most part, Father Time waits for nobody. But Lomachenko's not old. He's not shot. He's not past it. But I just, against Jermaine Ortiz, he didn't look in his peak. Against Richard Comey, he didn't look in his peak. Against Nakatani, he looked in his peak. But we'll see what we get on fight night. We'll see what we get on fight night. I expect Haney to win, and if he wins, I'll give him, a lot of credit. And Devin's already in the top 10 pound for pound to me at 23, 24 years old. So he's doing great. Sean is on rehydration clause, says boxing analyst. I am. I can't have no water. I can't have no water right now, man. I'm on the Ryan dehydrate. It's all good. You look like a Slavic Justin Bieber, says Foca Arpa. I'm more like an Italian Justin Bieber. It's just, I don't know, man. Maybe no water. I got the Slavic look right now. I don't know, but there's a double standard when it comes to Tank and Ryan. If Ryan decided not to fight because the rehydration clause, it would be called a duck. Look, when it comes to Ryan and the rehydration clause, it's like, if he didn't want to accept such stringent B-side terms, he could have been a more active fighter against better competition to build his name up until this point so that he enters the negotiation table as an equal. but you want to do things like pull out of some fights in the past, pull out of the Marcito Hesta fight, although we never got to Ryan's side of that, because Ryan at first said, I'm not going through that fight, screw tune-ups, let's get right to the big dance kind of thing. And then he says they didn't let me have the Hesta tune-up, which sucked for Ryan, because that would have been against a southpaw with some of the dimensions of Tank on many, many levels below Tank, but that's why it's a tune-up. But anyways, Ryan can't complain that much about the rehydration clause, because you want that big money and you want to jump from step A to step Z without all the steps in between, without fighting the Hector Garcias and the Age Gamboas and the Isak Cruzes and the Rollies and all these different little styles that complete you and season you and build your name and your rep up, and you want to jump right to the big dance. Well, these are the terms afforded to you. Take them or leave them. And he took them. So I'm not playing the violin for Ryan Garcia, but Tank at the same, I'm not playing the violin for Tank either. If on fight night Ryan looks strained and people point that out, I'm not like, oh, you guys are taking all this credit away from Tank. No, Tank wanted to be the big A side and do that, and he did, and he wins the fight by knockout. And I don't think it's going to affect anything ultimately. I have a hunch that the second weight will have to be hours before the fight, to where Ryan can eat up some pasta and get to 150 anyways. And I just picked Tank, period. As much as I respect Ryan's talent, which is pretty enormous, how he's been blessed in speed and power and size, but yeah, I'm not playing a violin for Ryan having to come in at 146. I'm not playing a violin for Tank if people point out, hey, that guy looked a little drained on fight night, if in fact he looked a little drained on fight night, So we got to call it like we see it. Big Goffner says, how can I see Loma winning, Sean? I said, I was earlier in the stream, I went over some early keys to victory, but basically Loma has to be able to pull off a lot of the stuff Jojo Diaz did as a southpaw with similar dimensions, short southpaw, likes to apply intelligent pressure, but Lomachenko is a better fighter than Diaz. He has to do the things that worked for Diaz against Haney in the 4 rounds he won out of 12, which was applying intelligent pressure, getting to mid-close range, and landing that left hand, sometimes throwing it down the pipe, but sometimes looping it a little bit. He's got to be able to do what Diaz did in those 4 rounds and take it a step further. That's like Loma's path to victory. But I see Haney, just imposing his size and his range behind his jab, walking Lomachenko into shots, and I see him beating Lomachenko in a decisive manner Loma hasn't been beaten in before. He lost 2 close ones to Salido and Lopez. I think he'll lose hands down this time. And give a good effort. I do think he'll have some competitive moments, but I expect Haney to win this fight in the 117 to 111 type range. Maybe he can put his foot on the gas and put together some combinations and really light and put on a show. Or maybe Lomachenko, takes advantage of Devin not yet being as good as an inside fighter as he is on the outside, and he finds a way to walk through some of those counters and gets that left hand off. But, we'll see. You got to favor Haney May 20th. Grand Campeon says Loma is going to beat the brakes off of Haney. Hey, it's good to have some balance in the chat. Loma not winning, period, says Sean Morrison. Good to see you, Sean Morrison, in the chat. Boxing has a lot of politics, says Mr. Quake. Tell me about it. Just get your water. We could wait. Thank you, Joe Dirt. You know what? Yeah, let me run and get some water real quick. 1 second, chat. All right, good looking out. Good looking out, my man Joe Dirt. Good looking out. One Boxing King 1 says Tank's resume is weak. Well, look, he hasn't unified yet, despite being a top fighter, and he is a top 10 pound for pound as well to me. Him, Stevenson, and Haney all make it on my list, but I haven't really compiled a list, but I just know I'd get those 3 in there. Jamel Charlo, Beterbiev, Canelo still, Crawford, Spence, Usyk, Inoue. So yeah, I got to keep thinking off top here. But look, Tank has fought some good fighters. Not any great ones yet, but some good ones. Pedraza was a good fighter who was undefeated. Barrios, little weight drained, and hadn't fought at that level yet, but still a tall kid with some power and a disciplined trainer in Virgil Hunter, and a kid that now to me is starting to take off a little bit at welterweight. I think he's going to beat your Dennis Ugas. I think that win will age nicely, as will Isaac Cruz, who may never get to the tippity top, but is definitely a legit contender at lightweight. Underrated armadillo type defense. So he's fought this tall guy like Barrios. He's fought this short armadillo who tucks his chin down to his chest, and Cruz, who has some power and combinations and explosiveness. He's fought a vet like Gamboa, who was just trying to survive, get rounds in with a cagey guy like that. Pedraza, Leo Santa Cruz, Hector Garcia is a solid southpaw who won a belt at 130, the WBA title, put hands on Chris Colbert. So he's faced a myriad of styles. And what does Ryan face? Luke Campbell and a past it Javier Fortuna. So the level that you could talk about Tank's resume. It lacks a great win, but it has some good wins. And he's been match made against some different styles. So he's complete now at 28. He's in his prime. He's he's ready to go for this moment. And Ryan is not. And Ryan's gonna have to find a way with his talent and his even with the rehydration clause, his advantage in size, and he's gonna have to find a way to pull that off. And you know what? Actually, let me check. Since we're talking Tank Ryan, there's something I've been seeing going around here in regards to that fight. Let me see if I can get in my Facebook. My old like stepbrother back in Brooklyn. He watches the fights sometimes. My man, I cover boxing for a goddamn living. And you got them family members who think they know more about their job than you do, about your job than you do. So my man, he messages me, my man Vincent Romano, basically like my stepbrother back home in Brooklyn back in the day. And he asked me, who you got your money on, Garcia or Davis? I said Davis, but it's hard to make money off of him because he's the favorite. Garcia isn't a bad bet at the odds, but I think Davis wins. He's got much better defense and he's seasoned. Garcia is still green in comparison. Davis might walk into a hook, though, LOL. But I think he stops Garcia at some point. And so my damn, former stepbrother sends me this. He says, huge openings for Ryan Garcia's lightning fast counter left hook, right? I'm sure you guys have been seeing this shot of how Tank drops that right hand when he comes over the top with the left, and how, Ryan could check it with the hook. And my brother, he just says, that's all I gotta say. Is it like, oh, he sunned me. He sunned me with my boxing knowledge. Shout out to you, Vinny. I love you, brother. But one thing I want you guys to take a close look at here in this picture. Davis's chin is off the line. Davis's chin is off the line. Davis's chin is to the outside of Romero's left shoulder when he's throwing that. So combined with the timing and the accuracy and the speed and the explosiveness to jump to cut distance in that moment, like he's landing that left hand against Romero. You go back to the picture, and again, his chin, yeah, it's open, it's exposed, and the right hand's down, but his chin is to the outside of Romero's shoulder. His chin is off the line. And when he's throwing that left hand, and he's doing two things simultaneously at once, which is, changing the levels a little bit. He's dipping down to the right, getting his chin off the line, getting down here, and then coming over the top with the left hand on the line where his opponent's chin's at. And his chin's off the line right there, and Ryan's chin is always on the line and standing up sometimes. So, yes, that's what makes this fight exciting. Maybe he dips down there and gets caught and gets checked with the hook, or he gets that chin to the outside of Ryan's shoulder like he does with Romero in that picture we saw, and he delivers his shot over the top while getting his chin off the line, and Garcia's chin still is up and on the line, and he gets caught. That's what's going to be fun. It's going to be Russian roulette. I don't know how mainstream or how much pay-per-view buys that would generate, but to me, the name of this fight is Russian roulette, because that's what these exchanges are between two guys with this kind of level of explosiveness, hand speed, and punching power. It's Russian roulette when they both open up, because any one bullet could end the other guy's night. Will Tank get in that left hand over the top, getting his chin off the line, or will, with that right hand dropped, he'll get checked by that nasty left hook and get put out, shockingly. That's what's going to make that fight fun. I call that fight Russian roulette. I don't know what you think, Chad. Is that a little cheesy, or Let me see here. Let me see. Who would I like to see against Isaac Cruz? Someone like Frank Martin would be great. Rolly Romero's moved up to 140 now, so I always want to see Rolly and Cruz, but Frank Martin and Cruz would be good. I favor Martin, but Cruz is going to bring that heat and test him, spiritually. He brings the dog out of you, and he tests you in that ring, mentally and spiritually with the kind of pressure he's bringing. Thank the Lord. Rolling with the punches, rolling Russian roulette. That's dope. Thank you, man. That's what that fight is to me, Russian roulette. BSA Mexican says, I could also see Tank and Ryan's fight going the distance. Sean Morrison saying Ryan needs the tennis ball under his chin. Now both of you sound like Bernard Hopkins, because Bernard Hopkins said he needs the tennis ball under his chin and that he wins the fight by distance, by keeping his distance, by keeping Tank on the outside. I just don't know if Ryan could pitch a shutout doing that. I think keeping it on the outside, he'll get caught at some point. I agree with Bernard that he does have to keep the fight on the outside, and his best bet, Ryan's path to victory in that fight for me. And I've heard some people I really know boxing, been around a long time, saying he's got to go for broke in the first half of that fight. That's the way he wins. He can't play. He'll die a slow death trying to play chess over the course of a 12-round fight with Tank. I disagree with that. I think. I disagree that he should go for broke in the first half of the fight. And I also disagree with someone like Hopkins. I mean, listen to me disagreeing with the best middleweight of my lifetime. But I also disagree with someone like Bernard Hopkins saying he wins the fight by decision, kind of playing it a little cautious on the outside all night. I think Ryan's path to victory is that Tank gives away early rounds, and that Tank's expecting the left hook, and that Ryan has a good right hand, an underutilized right hand that has power in it too. And he should take the straight right hand against the southpaw at distance when Tank's early on downloading data, not taking a lot of chances, being very patient. Take what the defense gives you and bank early rounds more with that right hand than letting go of the hook, letting him figure out the trajectory and the angle and figuring out the hook. Don't give it to him that much early. Take what the defense gives you. Then with Tank behind in the second half of the fight, like he has been before. We remember Barrios, his corner, telling him, you're behind, you got to pick it up. Floyd telling him, you're behind, you got to pick it up. Put him in that kind of scenario, and now you could walk him into the left hook because he has ground to make up, and he's looking to cut distance, and he's looking to take chances now after being patient and letting rounds get away. So I think if Ryan wins the fight, it's by knockout between rounds 6 to 9, with Tank behind on the cards because he's fighting in his patient style, throwing 20, 30 punches around, giving away rounds, knowing he'll figure everything out and get a stoppage at some point later in the fight. Take advantage of that early on. Bank those rounds. Don't open up too much, but open up at the right time once he starts to take more chances in the second half of the fight. And if he does that, maybe he could walk Tank into a hook in between rounds 6 and 9. But I think the more likely scenario is Ryan having a lead after 4 or 5 rounds, and then I think the more likely scenario is Tank knocking him out between rounds 6 to 9. I know Tank has talked about taking him to deep waters too. Tank seems to be talking about more around the 10th round. Really taking his time with this kid who's very dangerous. But I think Tank could get him out of it. I think either guy could. I think rounds 6 to 9 is the knockout rounds. If you're looking to place some money on a knockout in a round, I would look at those middle portions of the fight, I think. We'll see though. We'll see. So, Marvelous Irv, good to see you, man. Good to see Marvelous Irv. Ysidro Lara saying Tyson Fury's been dropped by Wilder 3 times, dropped by Steve Cunningham. A lot of casuals in here. Let's see here. Thank you, who said good breakdown. Thank you, Rolling with the Punches. Ryan can be just as great as Eric Morales, says eye to eye. Ooh, Morales had a lot in his game that Ryan hasn't showed yet. Morales had a great jab. Morales had feet. He was this warrior who was in multiple Fight of the Years, but had this great jab and this great range at 22 and 26 and 30. Get up on his feet and create offense. He had a creative, withering right hand. He could throw the uppercut with it. He could throw it down the pipe. He could feint it and set up other things. Morales, when he was old, almost knocked out Maidana with a check left hook. Morales is one of the greatest fighters I ever seen, man. So for me, the comparison for Ryan has always been Alexis Arguello. Like that, he could be if there's one fighter I feel like Ryan should study, it would be Alexis Arguello, maybe Oscar De La Hoya too. But he just doesn't have the feet and the jab of De La Hoya. But he does have some of the power and the frame of Alexis Arguello. And Arguello was such an accurate, long, power-punching machine. That's who I think Ryan, if he was ever going to lock himself in a room and watch tape all day to improve as a fighter, I think Arguello is the perfect blueprint for him. Guys like Morales and De La Hoya were more mobile with their feet than Ryan will ever be, so it'll be harder for him to emulate their styles. I like him emulating kind of that Alexis Arguello style better. Ysidro says Morales has a Spanish podcast on YouTube. Yeah, I know him and Barrera do their thing sometimes, and it sucks that I, no hablas español. My wife does, but she's busy with the baby, so yeah, I never get to watch the show, But I would love to. I wish I did, just so I could hear Morales and Barrera. I heard Morales doesn't pull punches. I heard he's actually a natural at being an analyst. My man from San Antonio 210 was telling me that, and so Jay Kurt, thank you, my man, for the super chat. Do you think Bob Arum will interfere in the fight with Haney and Loma? If it does go to the scorecard, Bob wants Lomachenko to win. Yeah, interesting comment, Jay Kurt 20. Appreciate you, man, for the super chat. You bring up a fair point because Top Rank has always had an affection for Lomachenko. Heading into that Lopez fight, I got the sense from more people in that company that despite Lopez being almost a decade younger and this, ripped up, marketable kid with a big flamboyant mouth, they wanted Lomachenko to humble him. And, and I felt that was kind of short-sighted, although maybe they were right because it hasn't panned out for Lopez the way you thought it would after that great win over Lomachenko. But, they seem to want Lomachenko to win that fight against Lopez, even though on paper you think the company would want the younger, American, marketable star to come out on top. That may be the case here as well. Despite Haney being, about 10 years younger and being the American fighter with all this great upside and future ahead of him, Top Rank, they don't know yet how they factor into that future. Haney's 3-fight deal, 2 fights with Kambosos, and now the Lomachenko fight, his deal is up with Top Rank after this. And, it remains to be seen if he will remain and extend with them and stay at 35 and fight someone like Stevenson, or move up to 140 and look to fight Teofimo Lopez if Lopez can pull off a win against Josh Taylor. There are definitely lucrative, good fights for Haney to remain at Top Rank, but, Eddie Hearn always opens up his checkbook for talent, and then PBC has the fight for Devin, the one that really dangles stardom before him, a showdown with Tank Davis. So, with all that said, if Top Rank doesn't feel like they're going to be in the Devin Haney business after this, if they're getting an inkling that he's not going to re-up with them, maybe you do see some funny business in a relatively close fight in Lomachenko's favor. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. Boxing can definitely be a shady sport. There's also the chance that the Nevada State Athletic Commission has a different prerogative than Top Rank. Maybe Top Rank would want Lomachenko to win a close, debatable fight, but maybe the Nevada State Athletic Commission looks at Devin Haney as a future moneymaker for, the next decade to come in prize fights. So, we'll see. I don't think it'll come down to a controversial decision, Kurt, but you ask a very fair question there because Top Rank has always had an affinity for Lomachenko, even over some of their young guys like Lopez, it seemed. But then again, the scoring in that Lomachenko fight wasn't particularly close. It was lopsided for Lopez, so it's not like any benefit of the doubt juice came through for Loma that night with Lopez, that's for sure. Mr. Quake said Italians and Spanish are similar languages. They are, parlano italiano un poco di. I used to speak a little Italian back in the day, but I've lost most of it now. Trey F says, if Ryan uses his jab, if he sets traps, he's got a chance, but Tank is a dog. Don't see Ryan winning. Yeah, and again, it's a lot of ifs for Ryan. If he does this, if he does that. So, maybe I do think Ryan has the kind of temperament that he's going to rise to the occasion. It's just that he's in front of a guy who is going to rise to the occasion too, and is so much more seasoned than him and has a better defense than him. But he's got the size and he's got the power and the speed to pull it off against anybody. So we'll see. I look forward to that. That again, I call it Russian roulette. That's what we're calling it in the chat. So yeah, Johnny. Yeah, good to see Johnny. Johnny, man, that's you, Johnny, with the wife Amanda. Good to see you, Johnny. Yeah, is this Haney's last fight on the contract? As of now, it is. Between now and May 20th, I wouldn't be surprised if they come to an extension for a 2 or 3 fight deal again. But it remains to be seen. You know, Top Rank does have some good fights for Haney, and the only fight, the fight out there for him is Tank. If Tank gets past Garcia, or Garcia if he gets past Tank. But I think those guys right now, for a myriad of reasons, are stronger at the box. Well, Tank is. Ryan's a more unproven commodity at the box office, but Tank's a proven commodity at the box office. And I think Haney straight away wouldn't get Tank even if he did go over to PBC, because he's just very dangerous and stands a great chance of putting a halt to some of the momentum of that money train that's building in Gervonta Davis. So if he can't get the Tank Davis fight in the next year in a potential PBC agreement, then maybe he should stay with Top Rank, because the Stevenson fight, although not nearly as big at the box office as him and Tank would be, is still a hell of a fight. And him and Tio, if Tio could get past Taylor, would be a hell of a fight, because it's got that Benavides-Plant bad blood to it that always makes fights better with the build-up and in the ring. And Lopez would have his luster back if he could get a dub over Taylor and take a belt off of him. So, you know, Stevenson and Lopez loom as very good fights for Haney with Top Rank if he re-ups, but the fight out there is Tank. I just don't think Team Tank would enter in a Devin Haney fight immediately after, you know, taking his stardom to a new level against Ryan. It's too risky. That's what I would think. Ness Mendoza says, I like your hair, Mr. Sean. Thank you, my man, because a lot of people who do not like it. So thank you for that. Do I think Haney beats Tio? I would give Haney the edge. Yeah, you got to look at what guys like Sandor Martin did on the outside with Lopez. And you got to look at how Kambosos' in and out movement gave him a lot of problems and was able to tag him with the right hand. I think Lopez is at his best against a guy like Josh Taylor, against a guy like Lomachenko, maybe even against a guy like Regis Prograis, a guy that wants to fight, a guy that wants to bang and come to him. I think that's where Lopez is able to play the counterpuncher he naturally is. I think when he's got to go and get a guy and cut off the ring, that's where a lot of flaws show up. I think he could look spectacular against guys that want to bang and want to come and fight with him. That's why I actually think he's going to pull it off against Josh Taylor, because Josh, despite being a tall guy, like we saw against Catterall, doesn't really use his height a lot. He likes to get in there and fight, and I think he could get countered up with power by Lopez. So, but that being said, styles make fights. I would favor Haney. Because he could get off first with the jab. He's long, and he won't let Lopez play counterpuncher and sit back a lot. He'll dictate off the jab, the range off the jab, and he'll make Lopez come and get him, which isn't Lopez's game. So I would favor Haney. But Lopez is still dangerous against anybody. Ysidro Lara says, Sean, with all due respect, I would never think of you as a fan of combat. That's funny. Vinny Paz told me that once. I was talking to Vinny Paz once, and Vinny was like, so what's your horoscope, kid? And I'm like, I'm a Virgo, but I'm surprised you're into that, Vinny. You don't strike me as an astrology guy. He goes, yeah, well, kid, all due respect, you don't fucking strike me as a boxing guy. And, my hair was like mad long. It was longer than it was now. So, I hear what you're saying. But with your boy, I got my little amateur career in the archives, and, I do know my boxing a little bit, Let's see. Rolling with the punches. My hair grew out a little bit. I was telling people in boxing live streams, I got my Sean Zittel look on. Thank you, Rolling with the... There you go. It's a look. It's a lifestyle. It's a vibe, I guess. Actually, Mr. Quake says, I'm a Capricorn. No Skittles tonight? Nah, Johnny. So it is Johnny with his wife, man. Nah, Johnny. I had them... me and my man, Ben, we call those power pallets. Those are energy pallets to keep you that energy starts getting low on the live stream. You have a couple Skittles and you go up, because because the whole doing a line on stream thing would be a little bit much. You know, I can't just get that coke rush to get and then a hard right hand by Benavides. I can't do that. So we settle for the Skittles sometimes. Shout out to my man Johnny and his wife Amanda. Awesome people. The kind of boxing fans that keep this shit alive and well. So let me see here. Pazienza wasn't too bad. No, Vinny was good. Vinny was definitely good. Juiced to the gills by the time he was fighting at super middleweight. I think, you know, allegedly. But no, yeah, Vinny was dope. One of the last top Italians, the last top Italian was Paulie, winning the IBF at 140 and fighting big guys like Cotto. But before Vinny, obviously we had LaMotta, Basilio, Graziano, Marciano, Willie Pep, Vito Antuofermo, Nino Benavuti, and on and on and on, Arturo Gatti, and on and on and on and on. So, but they're all gone now. They're all gone. It's okay. We've moved on. As Italian people, we watch reruns of Jersey Shore and of Goodfellas 5,500 times to stay true to ourselves, and we soldier on, and we eat it at spaghetti at different places, and it's okay. It's okay. We moved on. Let me see here. I got a little off track there, but my man, sorry, ASFM 7799. Good to see you, brother. Sorry, you've been asking this for a minute. I'm pretty sure it was 70-30 for Team Usyk to accept it. The issue was the rematch. Fury demanded 50-50 if he loses. Team Fury refused the demand of 70-30 if Usyk wins the rematch. If Fury refused, duck. Okay, but Usyk accepted 50-50 for a rematch clause with Joshua. Why not accept it with Fury, you know? But, and again, I think, this is just my opinion, ASFM. Once it was that whole 70-30, I think it was all bullshit and PR once the Saudi deal was off. Because I just think the way businessmen think, they can't go to sleep at night knowing they could have made 60, 70, and they're settling for 30 or 40. I think once that Saudi money was pulled, it was off. And Fury wanted a higher percentage of the split, is some of what I've heard around the boxing business. And the Saudis were like, you know what, we're out, and you guys go fight in Europe. And that's on Fury, but then again, I agree with Fury. He did deserve more than 50%. I don't agree with Team Usyk. And it goes against a little bit of Team Usyk's wishes, does it not? Does it not contradict Usyk saying money doesn't matter, and I just want to get this on? And he's a fighter. Of course he should say that. And of course his managers should fight for the biggest percentage possible. But Team Usyk dug their heels in on 50-50 when I feel like they don't get 50-50. And then Fury, with his antics, threw the fight out the window as well. So, you know, it's kind of to me like Spence and Crawford, where Crawford towards the end with his antics, he walks away from the table with undisputed on the line as a free agent, but not after being the goalpost being moved on him 2 or 3 times over the years from Spence and PBC. Well, be a welterweight first. Okay, I'm a welterweight. We'll win a belt first. All right, I want a belt. Well, you know, now I'm going to go clean up my side of the street for 2 or 3 or 4 years while you sit over there like a good boy. And so Spence delayed the fight for a few years, and then Crawford delayed it and walked away from the table. So they're both to blame. Team Usyk dug their heels in on 50-50, and then Fury played his antics and started demeaning the man and telling him 30% and 1% less every day. So I personally hold Fury accountable and Team Usyk. Not so much Usyk himself, the fighter, but his team a little bit. I think they were stubborn about 50% when Fury deserved more than 50%. So let me see here. And if Fury winds up fighting Joe Joyce, then come on. I mean, he's fighting an arguably even more dangerous fight. Although sometimes the more dangerous guy isn't the tougher fight. It's a smarter, quicker guy like Usyk. But still, we'll see. It'd be awesome. Hey, I'd be pretty satisfied if Fury winds up fighting Joyce and Usyk winds up fighting Wilder. It probably won't work out that way, but that'd be great. My man, Blind Faith, thank you for the super chat. I think we need a 6 to 8 man tournaments again. Yeah, that'd be great, but good luck. That would blow boxing up on the mainstream. Your thoughts, and who's my top 5 to 10 rising stars of 2023? Ooh, good question. Can I consider, thank you, Blind Faith, for the super chat. Can you consider guys like Keyshawn Davis and Jared Anderson and Delonte Johnson? Delonte Johnson, yes. Delonte Johnson's got to be one of those guys. But guys like Keyshawn and Jared are kind of on their way. I don't know I mean, if I can include guys like Keyshawn and Jared, Delonte Johnson, Elijah Garcia earlier this year beating Emil Clar Vidal. Emil Clar, what was his name? Emil Clar Vidal from Argentina or from Uruguay. Elijah Garcia out of Arizona, only 19 years old, high knockout ratio at middleweight. I like Elijah Garcia now. He got on the radar. You know, guys on Team USA right now, one guy to definitely keep your eyes on, chat, from Team USA right now is Jamal Harvey. Jamal Harvey will be a world champion. I'm on the record with that. You could take that to the bank. Jamal Harvey will be a world champion, and right now he's competing at around bantamweight in the amateurs for Team USA. He will be representing us at 2024 Olympics. Jamal Harvey's up there, blind faith. Elijah Garcia, Jamal Harvey. Guys like David Morrell, Keyshawn Davis, and Jared Anderson that you guys are already familiar with. I expect them to continue to flourish. Xander Zayas and Jesus Ramos. Cash Flow Diaz on the top rank side of things. Even Jake Paul has a good prospect, and Ashton Sylvie from Long Beach. He's a good prospect. Yeah, I'm trying to rack my brain for some others. I like Junto Nakatani fighting on one of these top ranked cards coming up. He's held a belt, so he's not like a prospect, but he is an up and comer. I like Junto Nakatani fighting Maloney. I expect him. Look, all due respect to Maloney, he's up against that tall, power punching left hand of Junto Nakatani. Yeah, I like David Morrell, obviously, but he's already technically won a belt. Blind Faith, I'm trying to come through. Definitely look up Jamal Harvey. Jamar Talley on Team USA is good as well. And any names, chat, you guys want me to take a look at for these up-and-comers? So I named a few at least, to at least make your super chat worth it, I hope. You guys put Jake Paul and laughed, but I'm talking about his prospect, Ashton Sylvie from Long Beach. Gustavo Fontalba. Thank you. Good to see you, Gustavo. Said he saw Ashton Kutcher rocking my haircut. Good on Ashton Kutcher. He originated it. He is the OG when it comes to this swag, you could call it. I'll give it to him. Emiliano Vargas. Exactly. Thank you, Johnny. Great call. Emiliano Vargas. Someone left a crying face with Cash Flow. Cat, you better stop, disrespecting Cash Flow. He's fast as shit, and you can't teach speed. He's got a lot to work on and grow into the professional style, but Cash Flow has a future for sure. He had a great amateur background, very fast. But yeah, Emiliano Vargas, definitely, I think, going to be a star in boxing. Has star written all over him, Emiliano Vargas, no doubt. Good one, Johnny. I'll have another water, love. Thank you. Joey Chaz, dude, you look like Shaggy. Story of my life, man. Been hearing that since high school now. So, good on you. Dr. Rubin, good to see you, Dr. Rubin. Said, yo, Sean, I thought boxing wasn't going to be part of the Olympics. I believe 2024 is the last dance. I believe 2024 is the last dance. So 2028, it's been confirmed that it won't be there. They're actually still debating right now. AIBA and the USA Boxing has had to continue to crusade for the amateur boxing to stay alive at the Olympics. I believe we're good for 2024, but the plan right now is that will be the final one. So Abdullah Mason, absolutely, with the Fighting Mason brothers out of Ohio. Abdullah Mason has a very bright future, no doubt about it. Yep. Bruce Carrington, no doubt about it. Trying to think who else, man. Yeah, Bruce Carrington. Scrappy Ramirez is a fun 26-year-old, prospect / contender, who's on the rise. Will be in some fun fights. So Charleston Moore, why are they taking boxing out of the Olympics? My guess is the continued pussification of the world, that kind of thing, that to sum it up. Benavides is the stronger and more younger and more explosive version of GGG, says Mercard Vasquez. I do think Benavides, at a 168-pound package versus a 5'10", 160, I do think Benavides is more dangerous right now than Golovkin ever would have been at 68. And I think Benavides has more skills than he showed against Plant, even though he dominated Plant down the stretch. But Benavides, he looked like an Antonio Margarito with hand speed Saturday night a little bit, which, I mean, not bad, right? I mean, Antonio Margarito with hand speed, not bad, but he didn't look like that comparison last Saturday. He looked a little bit like that, he didn't look like a Triple G. He didn't use his jab a lot early, maybe fighting off some of that anger and animus. I want to see that jab return for Benavides' his next fight. He's always had one of the best jabs in boxing, and he was reaching for power early against Plant. More settled down with less animus and more experience at this level. I'd love to see that Benavides jab back and at it again, whoever he fights next. Right, hey, good point to my man saying, Gustavo, at least I have a head full of hair, right? A lot of people going bald out here. Tiger Johnson for sure, Raphael 32, and I mentioned Delonte. I like Delonte Johnson a lot. Pacheco definitely counts, Flossy Sports TV. Diego Pacheco, yep, that's another up-and-comer. Xander Zayas for sure, Johnny. I mentioned Xander was one of the guys I did mention to get started. And Richard Torres, although Torres is always going to struggle not being a super fast guy, super tough guy with a great stamina and good power, Torres is going to struggle at the highest level because of size. He's only about 6'2"-ish. But Torres is an exciting up-and-coming fighter, too. Basically all the top-ranked youngsters. So, Eye to Eye says Benavides will be mediocre at 175. I don't know about that. He may feel more comfortable and stronger at 75 than ever before and can open up his game even more. Or fighting guys close, his own size, his power won't look the same and he won't be as effective. But I actually lean more towards he's going to be even better at light heavyweight because I think he's really a light heavyweight sucking down to 68, and people would say, well, he's weight bullying, so it's really his advantage. And to a degree it is, but I have a feeling him more replenished at 75, he's going to be even more of the Mexican monster. It's just he'll be going up against bigger guys that can get his respect in a way a guy like Caleb Plant can't or Demetrius Andrade can't. So we'll have to see. I think he'll be better at 75. It's just he'll be going up against tougher challenges too. So, Frank Sanchez, definitely Itonio box. I like Frank Sanchez, but I can't think of him as a young up-and-comer. But he is definitely a contender at heavyweight. Tough for anybody. Yeah, it looks like we're starting to thin out here. We're down to about 200. Again, it sucks we had to start this stream with that audio fuck-up. Forgive me, chat. But if there's anything else you guys want to cover before we get out of here, again, Haney and Lomachenko is official for May 20th. MGM, you got to favor the younger, bigger, fresher, ascending force in Devin Haney, who's got the footwork to keep up with Lomachenko's tricky, lead foot pivots, trying to get to the outside of lead foot. Devin's got the footwork and athleticism to keep him on the line and pivot off with him, keep the jab on him, maybe walk him into some counter shots, or maybe Lomachenko could take the things Jojo Diaz did a step further and pull off an upset against the undisputed lightweight champ. But Kermel Morton, absolutely, Kobe. Kermel Morton, and I didn't mention Kermel because I said, well, let me keep it to guys who are at least professional already. But I mentioned Jamal Harvey, who's still in the amateurs, so I could definitely mention Kermel Morton. My guy Ron Goodall out here in Vegas for FightHype has been already covering Kermel, already building him up. So, and Rolly Romero loves Kermel Morton. Tells me he thinks the world of him. So, say hi. Oh, get in the frame. Get in the frame and say hi. There we go. All right. Thanks, love.
You're welcome.
We're about to wrap it up.
Okay.
Do I think Frank Sanchez beats Tyson Fury, Itonio? No, I don't. But Sanchez is a legit contender. He deserves an opportunity at a fight like that at some point. But I think Sanchez is better against an aggressive type fighter instead of him having to go and get you. And he doesn't really have the firepower, I think, he could give Fury a tough fight. And especially if Fury is slacking at all and taking him lightly at all, he could get his hands full and maybe more than he bargained for. But Fury, when he's right, can match a lot of the speed and the skills of Frank Sanchez, but he's so much bigger. And I don't think Frank Sanchez has the firepower. I know he got dropped against Steve Cunningham and things, but that was years ago. I don't think Sanchez knocks him out. I think that's a 12-round fight. And Fury's got a great gas tank. He's a lot bigger. He can match much of the speed and skills of Sanchez. I think Fury would beat Frank Sanchez, but Sanchez is definitely a legit heavyweight contender. Blind Faith, thank you for the super chat again, my man. And I hope you felt like you got your money's worth in that first one. All right. Oh, I love it. Winners. All right. Fantasy fights. Sugar Ray Robinson against Roy Jones. Marvin Hagler against Carlos Monzon. Andre Ward against Triple G. Serrano Taylor 2. Usyk Wilder. Tank Loma. Inoue Fulton. Ooh, all good ones. Okay, Roy and Ray Robinson. I think Ray Robinson's pound for pound the greatest fighter of all time still, but Roy Jones, because Roy was... Then again, you know what? I would have to actually go Ray. I would have to go Ray Robinson because Roy was so green at middleweight. Now, if for some reason Ray went up to 168 and fought Roy Jones at 168, then Roy Jones, all due respect to the GOAT, would tap that ass because nobody's fucking with Roy Jones at 168. Even the great Joe Calzaghe and Andre Ward wouldn't have fucked Roy Jones at 168, in my opinion. I mean, no one's fucking with Roy at 68. But at 60, I might actually pick Robinson because I want to pick Roy because Roy's just is just such a force of nature at middle and arguably the most gifted fighter of all time in those divisions. But Ray, 5-time middleweight champion. Roy fought a young green Bernard. They were both green. If the fight's at 60, I might go Robinson. If it's at 68, Roy Jones all day. And then Monzon and Hagler, I'm going to go Hagler. I think Hagler had the better jab. I think Monzon definitely was a good puncher. Great timing, but I think that Hagler fought at a higher pace, and I think he had a better jab than Monzon. And Monzon, great puncher, but I don't think he's knocking out Hagler. Nobody's knocking out Hagler. That's a 15-round war. You could argue Monzon does some of the things Duran does, and he's a natural middleweight, and he could place some of the same shots on the southpaw that Duran did and win the fight. But I'd give the edge to Hagler because he fought at a better pace and had a better jab than Monzon. I'd give the edge to Hagler over 15 rounds with Monzon. And then Andre Ward, Triple G, Andre Ward all day at 168 pounds. Triple G never got the opportunities in his prime at middleweight that would have been great to see him get. When he was really in his prime at middleweight, he was forced to fight guys like Proska and Rosado. But at 68, Triple G's only 5'10". Andre Ward was a complete fighter, could fight on the outside, great defense, could fight on the inside, and was the natural super middleweight who even became the light heavyweight champion against Kovalev. So Ward was bigger. Ward was not only bigger, but more skilled than Triple G. I got Ward all day at 168. Serrano, Taylor, 2. I'm going to edge it to Taylor because I think Serrano's big. You hear my son laughing in the back. I think Serrano's beginning to slow down. She's been in a lot of wars lately, and she's getting hit more lately. So I would favor Taylor especially if that rematch was in Dublin. So I'd favor Taylor. Although she's not a spring chicken either. She's in her mid-30s. But I think Serrano's been in a lot of wars lately. Usyk and Wilder, Deontay, I don't know because I don't know if Deontay could take a punch still. He knocked out Helen. Hey babe, I'm still doing this live. But Usyk and Wilder, Wilder, he's we don't know about his punch resistance anymore. In his prime, we know he has a hell of a chin. Yeah, Fury stopped him twice, but he has a hell of a chin. And he took Ortiz, hit him with his best shots and couldn't drop him. If he still has the kind of chin he did against Luis Ortiz in their 2 fights, then he can beat Usyk. He can withstand punishment for 6 or 7 rounds like he did against Ortiz in that rematch and then line him up for just one right hand and knock him out. But I don't know if Wilder has that in him anymore after those wars with Fury. So I don't know. I feel like Usyk would be the favorite at Las Vegas to win that fight. That's my answer to that. If Wilder is still the guy that has the chin and the toughness in his mid 30s after those wars with Fury, then he could still withstand enough punishment for 6 or 7 rounds and catch Usyk once. But I don't know if he's that guy anymore. Tank and Loma, in their primes, I think if Loma would have fought Tank a couple years ago when people really wanted to see it, Lomachenko would have won because he was in his prime and Tank was still developing. And Tank likes to fight at a slow pace, and Lomachenko, as the fight would have went on, could have pushed the pace. Right now, I favor Tank. Tank right now against Loma a few years ago. Ooh, it's a tough fight. It's a 50-50 fight. I lean towards Tank because he's a more of a force of nature in terms of his explosiveness, and I think he's a little bit the physically stockier, stronger guy than Lomachenko. But then again, I could see Lomachenko winning a unanimous decision against Tank by piling it on late, by feinting Tank out of positioning and making him miss with his counters coming in and then touching him up with combinations. I think Lomachenko would have won that fight a few years ago when Tank was still developing and Loma was peaking. And I think now Tank would win the fight now that Loma peaked a little bit and Tank is peaking himself. Peak for peak, tough 50-50 type fight. I give the edge to Davis because of that punching power. They're both, fast, skilled guys, but Davis has that power factor. I give the edge to Davis, but I wouldn't have been surprised whatsoever if Lomachenko worked him over with his feints and his pace and won a decision clearly either. So thank you, Blind Faith, for that. So let me see here. It's okay, Sean. I have kids. Let them laugh. I know. I feel bad, man. I know. I should be letting the little man in the back, have his fun. I felt like kind of a dick doing that, but I had to answer my man's super chat. So that's about it, chat, man. I think that's all I got for you guys. Raphael32 says, nobody talks about how Roy wouldn't travel over to fight Darius Makawakawakawi. I could never pronounce that name. Even back in the 2000s, I couldn't pronounce that man's name. When he was selling out 50,000 seats in Germany. Yeah, but come on, Raphael32. We're not going over to Germany for that fight. He's got to come here, okay? I'm Mr. Unstoppable. I'm pound for pound. I'm Roy Jones Jr. He needs to come Pensacola, Florida if he wants that smoke. If he wants to fight, I got 3 belts. He's got 1 belt. Don't talk to me about no Darius Makawakawaki, whatever his last name, how you say his last name. Come on, Raphael32. You know I love you. But I beat James Toney. I beat Bernard Hopkins. I was the only one to go from middleweight to heavyweight. Don't talk about no Darius German man, whatever his name is. If he wanted that smoke, 60-40, get your ass whooped. 60-40, I kick your ass. Okay, that's the kind of energy Darius gets here in America from Roy Jones. Actually, you know what? That's funny that you brought up Darius, Raphael32, because some people were asking me in the chat on Sunday about Andrade, and was it not disgraceful that Canelo didn't fight Andrade? And all Andrade is he doesn't go down as some kind of Lennox Lewis got ducked by Riddick Bowe. He does not even Aaron Pryor. Sugar Ray Leonard may have fought Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, and Mario Hagler, but he didn't seem to want to fight Aaron Pryor. It's not even that. It's a footnote. Just like Roy Jones and Darius, it's a footnote. It's if you know your boxing, it deserves to be brought up out of context. Hey, Canelo became undisputed at 168 once Benavides got stripped. He didn't want to become undisputed at 60. He beat Jacobs and Golovkin and never fought Andrade. Yeah, it's a footnote, but it's not that significant. It only registers as a footnote. So I'm happy you brought up Roy with Darius, because that was kind of the point I was trying to make with Andrade. He didn't, and part of it is he got fucked over by Saunders popping positive. I think that fight would have changed the trajectory of Andrade getting big fights if Saunders wouldn't have fucked him over by, popping in 2018 for that first DAZN fight. But Andrade didn't put in enough work to where he goes down as this significant duck in a career, like Riddick Bowe and Lennox Lewis or something like that, or so it's a footnote. It's like hey, Floyd never fought Casamayor or Costa Tszyu, or that Winky Wright fight never happened at 154 when they were talking about it in 05. It's like, if you know your boxing, you'll bring it up. It's fair to bring it up, but it's just a footnote. Goddamn embarrassing celebrities on TV. Us drawing me. Bye, Sean. See you. Thanks, name. Have a good one, man. So, see you, Mr. Quake. And till next time, chat. And that's it, man. I'll see you guys later. Looks like everyone's getting up out of here. And we'll call it a day. Everyone have a great rest of the night. Thank you. And be on the lookout for Canelo live tomorrow in San Diego. I got to leave Vegas early tomorrow morning. Go see Canelo. Get ready for Ryder. So check back in tomorrow afternoon, chat. Live from San Diego. Canelo Alvarez's media day. And we'll be sure to ask him all the good stuff. So see you later, everyone. Peace.